Thomas Partey suffers another injury setback whilst Mikel Arteta faces the press ahead of the game against Liverpool. Meanwhile, an Arsenal player leaves following 8 years of service. This is the Arsenal Transfer Show without a single audio issue at all. You see, how easy was that? If you're listening on audio platforms, you won't even know the chaos that we've had at the start of this show. Not only was I like 5 minutes late because I was trying to sort out the issues, but not only that, I managed to mute myself at the start of the show as well. So you couldn't even hear me. And no, I'm not falling for it, Aaron. I am certainly not still on mute. And I know that I'm not. So don't you worry. Good morning to you guys and girls joining us in the chat box. Thank you so much, as always, for doing so. It is very much appreciated. I hope you had a fantastic end to your week, and now you're ready for a fantastic weekend, like I am. I'm really looking forward. If you can't tell, I am dressed in the attire of a man that is going to be playing his first round of golf of 2024. I'm going to be terrible. It's going to be awful. I'm going to slice it. I'm going to curl it absolutely into the next field, but it is back on track for golf this year, which I'm very much looking forward to getting out there in as well. Let's jump into the chat and say good morning to people, shall we? Stevie, Damien, Sweating Merlot, Blackshine, Paul, Lars, Barry, Amesy, Sweating Merlot, Damien, Kaiser, Amesy, Matt G, Peter, Josh, Dominic, Maximius, Arasilki, Gooner, Jake, Dylan, Temi. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me. It is very much appreciated. And yes, I'm looking forward to having a conversation in part 2 with you guys in the chat box, as I'm sure you'll continue to absolutely batter me about my own audio decor, which is so poor at the moment. So poor. Anyway, shall we jump into today's stories? I think we should. Beattie has left Arsenal after 8 years of service during 2 separate spells with the club. She's joined Bay FC in the United States. Really sad to see Jen go. She's had a fantastic career with Arsenal. She did leave a message on the Arsenal website, an open letter to the club, which you, if you would like to, you can, of course, read. I'll pick out this specific paragraph. She said, "It's been an absolute privilege to represent this club. As someone who grew up watching Thierry Henry, Rachel Yankee, Dennis Bergkamp, Jane Ludlow, Kelly Smith, I feel so lucky to be able to call myself a Gunner and to have been made so welcome from day one." An amazing achievement to be at a club of Arsenal stature for so long, and we wish Jen all the best in the future and hope that she goes on to achieve big things in America. So there you go. Lovely stuff. Moving forwards, Omar Rekik has joined Servette on loan for the rest of the season, and I'm looking forward to seeing if indeed this is the right move. Finally, the right move for Omar Rekik, who has struggled to get minutes. He did play a fair amount at Wigan, but of course in the time he spent in the Netherlands with Sparta Rotterdam, it did not go down too well at all. So hopefully in Switzerland, Omar Rekik can indeed do a lot better. That would be fantastic to see. Galatasaray have secured the deal finally for Serge Aurier, and that deal obviously we would expect means that we won't see Cedric move to Galatasaray during the rest of the Turkish transfer window. But there could be other clubs involved. There could be other teams interested. I guess we will have to wait and see. Let's keep those fingers crossed that turns out to be the case. But at the moment, it does not look like that Cedric will be moving on to Turkey, with the main interested party being Galatasaray, always looking at other options as well. Arsenal have announced a partnership with Sobha Realty, which is a Dubai-based company, to sponsor their training ground. It is a multi-million-pound deal in which they released a statement on the club website. Arsenal Chief Commercial Officer Juliet Slot said that Sobha Realty is a dynamic business with big ambitions, and we're excited to build on our partnership and tap into their extensive knowledge in property development. Their unrivaled experience will help us understand and explore the opportunities available to us, ensuring we're always moving with world-class facilities in the future. Our exciting new deal is a strong sign of our commitment to building mutually beneficial partnerships which support the objectives of both Arsenal and our partner. This is a groundbreaking agreement for both us, with Sobha becoming our first ever training ground naming rights partner and supporting their global growth ambitions as they seek to establish a stronger presence worldwide. Our new partnership shows the strength of our commercial proposition and our ability to grow sustainably by developing commercial opportunities that can be invested back into our club. There has never been a better time to join us on our journey. And Mikel Arteta, we'll come to his press conference specifically a little bit later on, but just because we're on this topic, he was asked about it, and he says, "We just want to welcome Sobha Realty to our football club. I think it's going to be a great way for us to evolve the facilities and updates that we need around the place to improve performance and make this place more special. We have some necessities, and they're going to be really helpful in fulfilling that." So the Arsenal training centre is going to be having some specific upgrades after this partnership was secured, of a multi-million-pound partnership with Sobha Realty. So I guess the club are very pleased to get this partnership sorted. So it turns out they did do a deal during January in the end. Sambi Lokonga has been speaking about his time at Luton. He says, "I think it's too early to say," when he was asked about succeeding at Arsenal. "I haven't had any contact with Mikel Arteta yet. I'm concentrating on Luton. We'll talk to Arsenal at the end of the season, but everything will happen gradually. I still consider myself an Arsenal player. I'm appreciated there by the fans and the staff, and I think I can have a future at Arsenal, but that will depend on my performances here. I've always said that as long as I have a contract with the Gunners, I'd like to make my mark there." He was also asked about whether or not he thinks Arsenal would be champions. He says, "I hope Arsenal are the champions this season for my friends and for the staff." He says, "I'd sign for Arsenal. I'd sign for Arsenal. I learnt a lot there. Maybe I could have gone out on loan at the end of my first year because I wasn't playing much, but I'll never regret my move to Arsenal. It's a club that's close to my heart." And I think it's really positive to hear Lokonga talking about things in this way. We've seen players leave on loan and get frustrated, get annoying. And I think it's really frustrating, of course, for a player that doesn't necessarily get the minutes that they want to. That clip that was in the All or Nothing series obviously went a bit viral, and I think that was kind of held against him in some senses too. Of course, a player that's come to a brand new country, he's never been to the UK before, and that's for committing to a club. And I did have some sympathy for Lokonga during that period, especially when those clips went viral after the All or Nothing series. That Crystal Palace loan, of course, he was signed previously under Patrick Vieira, and then they sacked Patrick Vieira. And Roy Hodgson, of course, came back, and he just didn't get as many minutes. He absolutely deserved to get more minutes. And with Luton, he's finally playing, and he's really impressing. I was looking at the statistics, and in his last, I think, 7 starts, they've won something like 3 or 4 games, drawn 3, and lost just 1. It's a really good record that he's got for Luton since he's come back into the team, and he's done a massive contribution to Luton's upturn in form. If they survive, he will have a huge part to play. In that survival push for Luton. And I tweeted this a couple of weeks ago. I don't think Lokonga's story at Arsenal is over yet, and I really want to see him succeed. And I hope that he gets an opportunity to try and show what he's worth next season, when we, of course, have to really churn and turn over the midfielders that are in this group, because we've got some aging players and some players that probably need to move on. Speaking of which, Mikel Arteta did face the press yesterday. He was asked about Thomas Partey. He was asked about Gabriel Jesus. He said, "Yeah, Gabby obviously played and trained with us the whole week, which is obviously good. So we'll have Jesus available for this weekend. With Thomas, unfortunately, we had a little setback a few days ago. So he's not going to be available to be in the squad. Whether that's a matter of days or weeks, we'll see. But he had a little thing." He was asked about the setback, and he says, "I'm not a doctor, but I'll try to explain. He felt something again in a very similar area, and he wasn't able to train the last few days." Really frustrating. And obviously, it's generated very much a frustration amongst fans again, because a key player in the squad that we were hoping to have back, perhaps even in the squad for this weekend, with hopes really, increasing that Partey could return and play a real key part in the rest of the season. Another setback in his recovery has obviously put pay to that, and it's really obviously very, very frustrating indeed. But we move. We have Rice, we have Jorginho, we have El Neni back at the club as well after, of course, his time with Egypt. And I know that's not going to come as too much of a benefit to too many people that wanted to see Partey, but we have got the depth. That's why we bought Rice in the summer. And we have to continue, as we have done over the course of this season, without Thomas Partey. But in the summer, for me, we have to find a way to resolve this situation. And I think we have to look at trying to move him on if we can. Of course, I know a lot of you tweeted me yesterday saying, how do you sell a player when the interest is going to be very hard to come by? I don't know the answer to your question. I don't know, but I'm just hopeful that we can do that. He was asked about the transfers actually in January. He says on why we haven't signed a forward in January. He says if we win on Sunday and score a lot of goals, I think like this. I love my players, and I think that on Sunday we're going to score goals and they're going to be on top, and they fully deserve all of our credit because of the way they are. It was interesting that he was asked about signing a forward in January, because I think that it's relatively, we know the reasons as to why Arsenal didn't sign a centre forward. It's because of the financial profit and sustainability regulations kept us very restricted in what we could do. He could have said that. He chose not to, and I quite like him, deflecting onto the team once again. He was asked about not signing anyone, and he says maybe there is not a player in the market that can really make a difference or the impact that you need if you're unable to recruit them. And again, this is the answer that I was hoping for, really, that he would talk about the fact that they couldn't find the player that they wanted to bring in because they didn't have the financial freedom to be able to go and get the players that we wanted to add to the team. And so that's really, really important to stress, that in this market, we couldn't do what maybe we wanted to, and they couldn't add a player for the sake of adding a player. There's no point just signing somebody for the sake of it. You need to make sure you sign somebody because they are the right player for the club. On outgoings and on youth in particular, he was asked about Lino Souza leaving on deadline day. He says it was a club decision, and obviously he had a really particular situation with his contract. There has been a lot of talk about it, and the club believe it was the best decision to do that, and I supported the decision. He was asked about the willingness to give youth players a chance. He says, we certainly want to do that. First of all, we need to produce those talents, and they have to earn it. And secondly, they have to be in a position that we need fulfilling. Everything has to come together, and we are working on that. We have a few prospects which are not far away, but the reality is we want more. Today, to give the opportunities to play in the first team at the level required, we are a bit short. And this is something that I've said before, and something in defense of Arteta. Arteta has received quite a bit of heat recently from a number of people. And I think asking fair questions, by the way. I think that they're fair questions to ask about whether or not Arteta should be doing more with the youth, whether he's given youth enough of a chance. The reality is, I think that we're not producing talents at the moment of the level of Conor Bradley, say, at Liverpool. We're not producing talents at the level of Oscar Bob at the moment that can break into those Liverpool and Manchester City first teams and get some regular game time. And you could ask, I remember I watched Alex's video on the Different Knock, who produced a fantastic video voicing his own concerns about the Youth Academy. And I think he raised them excellently on the Different Knock the other day. What I would say is that I think that he raises the other point where if you're saying that if we haven't got good enough players to enter the first team, then we've got another problem. You could argue that we do, yes. But what I would say is that there's perhaps context that is missing sometimes, and that's the investment of the likes of Manchester City that they put into their academy that Arsenal cannot afford to do in the same way. I'm not that adept at knowing what Liverpool's processes are and how much they're investing in their academy compared to us. But ultimately, if the players aren't of the level required, we can't at the same time be putting loads of pressure on Mikel Arteta to win the title. For many, it's like he has to win the title or he goes. That's what we hear from critics all the time. But at the same time, same critics say, we're not giving youth enough of a chance. You can't have it both ways. But I do think that Mikel Arteta can be better. I think that he can be better within the way in which he integrates the team with youth players. I think there's games this season where he's missed the opportunity to do that. The Lens home game, the Wolves game at the end of last season. These are great opportunities to give some of those players some minutes, and we didn't when we could have done. And he has to take the fall for that specific point. But there is an argument that we haven't yet produced the youth players that are going to be able to rival or get enough minutes at the right time in this squad. But we'll have to wait and see if that changes. You can, of course, get involved in the latest Football Prizes competition, which is our Bukayo Saka. There isn't a early bird price, sadly, anymore. It will be $3.95 if you would like to buy a ticket. Link in the description. It is UK only. There are 480 tickets left. We've sold over 100 of these already. So best of luck to those that do get involved in the latest competition to win a signed and framed Bukayo Saka shirt. Fantastic stuff. You can also get entered into competition to sign a William Saliba signed and custom frame shirt as well. There's only 12 tickets for that you can only enter by entering into this competition. It's like a competition for a competition. It's interesting. Plus, there's loads of different other prizes as well that you can get involved in. Signed Sol Campbell shirt, a signed Ben White shirt, a signed Nigel Winterburn shirt, a signed Liam Brady shirt. So plenty to win. Lots of Football Prizes site credit as well. Don't miss out. UK only. Link in the description. Best of luck to you all who get involved. Right, let's move to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, part two, which means we're going to go into the chat box and try and tackle some of your questions. Let's go to Tom says it's the wife's birthday. And I'm slave driven to make breakfast, and she has 5 courses of cake. Wish me luck. Tom, first of all, big congratulations and happy birthday to your missus. And I hope you have a fantastic day and best of luck with that rest of the day. It seems quite hectic. Fuad says, Tom, if KSE intend for us to be a sustainable club, then surely investing and concentrating on the youth academy should be a priority for future sales. And hopefully they do. Hopefully they do, Fuad. You know, we've seen players join the club in recent years from abroad. We've seen them invest, but there is something to be said about, you know, it's a long term process. It's not the same as like buying a young player for the senior squad. They are expected to go straight into the first team. When you invest in the youth, it's a really long period of time. Over the period of time that it's taken Manchester City to bring through Rico Lewis and Oscar Bob, for instance, yes, they've given a load of debuts to kids and stuff who have sadly just not been able to do really anything with the club. Only Phil Foden has been able to break into that first team. And it's only recently in the last couple of years that we've seen Rico Lewis and Oscar Bob kind of push through as well. But they've had lots of other players that have made debuts, but have then obviously just been sold. But is that selling process that Arsenal need to be better at regarding some of their youth players? And if we give them more opportunities in games, which we should be able to give them opportunities, then hopefully we can be better with that as well. Marcus says, with all the respect, are you an Arsenal fan or a fan of the manager? I hope sometimes that you hear yourself talking. Marcus, for people like yourself, I always offer you the opportunity to come on to the show and have a discussion about any criticisms that you have of my thoughts on things. But sadly, Marcus, you don't show up. So what can I do? I'm certainly a fan of Arsenal, and Mikel Arteta will get all the criticism and praise that he deserves at the certain times that he deserves that criticism and praise. But that's a real shame that you see it that way, Marcus, but I think people in the chat box would tell you that you're probably being a little bit silly. Manuel says, what role is Lokonga playing at Luton, and could he play that role at Arsenal? He's playing the box-to-box position at the moment, which I think really is his best position. He was never a 6 for me. He was never, ever going to be that guy that just sits deepest point in the midfield. He was always going to be someone that tries to make stuff happen. He can play as a deep line playmaker, but he's not a 6 for me. I really do look at him as more of a 6'8", and I really do think that the 8 position for Lokonga is where we will see the best from him moving forward. So it could be that we see him in the Arsenal midfield playing in that left 8 role, if indeed he could develop into a player of a sufficient quality. I don't know whether he's going to be able to do that yet, but there is still time. He signed in 2021, signed a 5-year deal. It runs through till 2026. So we've still got 2 years left on his contract. So we've still got plenty of time to make a decision on his future. Bizarre says, Tom, do you think Zinchenko and Ben White sharing wives and having conflicts will impact our title challenging chances? Yes, this relates to a comment made by Mikel Arteta about the scrap, if you like, between Ben White and Alexander Zinchenko, who says he was joking around saying, yes, they've been sharing wives and living in the same house all week. Is a good joke. But I think that, no, I agreed with what he said after the game. It's something you want to see sometimes. You want to see your own players holding each other accountable for their actions. Zinchenko made a mistake. He dropped too deep. He played them onside, and ultimately that nearly could have led to us dropping points. And so, yes, I like it. I like the fact that these players are being held to account. Everyone's like, sharing wives? Yes, this is what Arteta said. I'll find the real quote for you if I can. Arteta, wives. Let me get the full quote for you. Otherwise, it's going to sound like I'm misquoting him and coming up with something. Here he goes. He says, yeah, they've been in the same house the past few days, sharing wives and everything. It's fine. They're living together now. They're best mates. You don't argue with someone if you don't have a great relationship. I want my players to always have the desire to be better and be demanding. If not, it's Disneyland. That's what Arteta said. It's just a joke. I don't know. Magambo says, weird statement. I mean, it's a joke. Like, you've got to take it for what it is. It's just, goodness me. Some people are too serious. Manuel says, long time listener, first time listening live because of the time difference. Thanks for taking my questions on. You're absolutely welcome, Manuel, and welcome to the live chat as well. Thank you for your listenership. Nathan says, regarding transfers, I had the chance to see Osimhen play at the African Cup of Nations here in Cote d'Ivoire. He is way more impactful than I could imagine. We should do everything we can to try and get him. Brilliant player. There's no doubt of the player's quality. That's for sure. There's absolutely no doubt at all of what he's capable of. It's just the money that it would take to get him through the door. And of course, it would also take a huge amount of like budget away from other potential positions if we did go and get him. But it's going to be very, very difficult, I think, for Arsenal to do that deal in the summer. Apparently, the rumours are that he actually prefers Chelsea at the moment. So the wages as well are something that are going to be a problem. It's going to be very difficult. Very, very difficult. Jake says, on TalkSport, they tried to spin the wives comment into a serious thing. People inability to take a joke baffles me. Who was it? Who was it on TS saying they were trying to take it seriously? At the end of the day, some people do just want to see the world burn, don't they? Like, if you're taking that comment seriously, I don't know what to tell you. It was clearly a joke, and you've got to look at the fact that you want players to be holding each other accountable. And that's really, really important. So there you go. Let's go to Amira. Says the window's now closed. Hopefully, no more surprises. What's your hot take for this half of the season? I mean, what's my hot take for the half of the season? I stick by what I said before. My hot takes would be Arsenal win the league. Eddie Howe potentially losing his job, I think, was one of my hot takes. I think I said that Manchester United might finish in the bottom half. I don't think that's going to happen now. And I think Chelsea, something to do with Chelsea as well. I remember, let me see if I can find my hot takes tweet from the start of the season. You always end up looking silly when you tweet something in like August early on. Here we go. August 11th, I tweeted this. My hot takes before the league season of 11/8/23, bearing in mind transfer business that could be done before the window closes. Arsenal win the league. Brighton finish in the bottom half, is what I said. Eddie Howe to be sacked. Erling Haaland won't win the Golden Boot. And United will miss out on top four. They were my hot takes at the beginning of the season. And I tell you what, Arsenal to win the league, not looking too likely. Brighton to finish in the bottom half. I mean, let's have a quick look at the Premier League table. They just lost 4-0 to Luton. They are currently 9th. But the problem is that prediction needs quite a few points to be picked up by Wolves. To be fair, they're only 3 points away from 11th. So Brighton to finish in the bottom half, not too bad of a prediction. Eddie Howe to be sacked. There is pressure on Newcastle right now. Very interesting indeed. So let's see if that one comes true. Erling Haaland won't win the Golden Boot. He's had injuries this year, and that's what I was kind of banking on for that hot take to come true. So that could come true. And United to miss out on the top four. At the start of the season, you think about all those Man United predictions that we saw. That's why I did that hot take, because there were so many people predicting Manchester United to finish above Arsenal. Those Manchester United fans being really arrogant about where they were as a table. So let's see. Let's see if any of those come true, or all of those come true. That'd be pretty cool if it does. James says maybe it's not a joke, the wives comment. It could be a revolutionary man management technique from Arteta. James, you're living in a different world, my friend, but I appreciate it. Spartan says, are there any news if Mohamed Salah will play against Arsenal? By the way, is Arsenal versus Liverpool analysis today? Do you mean the preview show? We're hoping to do a preview show today. Yes, hopefully we will. So I'm going to be putting some comments out in the Discord server. Preview show probably about 6 o'clock tonight. So to be fair, I should check what Premier League action is on today and update you as to what games are going to be played, so we can do that. It is indeed Saturday, isn't it? So Saturday, 12:30 kickoff, Everton Spurs, Brighton Palace, Burnley Fulham, Newcastle Luton at all 3 o'clock kickoffs, and then Sheffield United Villa at 5:30. We might do the preview after the Villa game, so that would be 8. We might do an 8 o'clock preview show. So just look out for that one. And yeah, we'll see. Rob Bob says, Tom, you could definitely make a clean sweep. Amira says, wait, who is leading the Golden Boot race at the moment? It's a good question. Who is leading the Golden Boot race at the moment in the Premier League? Premier League England. It is that was last season. I need this season. Come on. Where is it? Premier League 23-24. Is Haaland first still? Oh, for goodness sake. He's still first. He's been out for ages and he's still winning. Well, I might not be right with that one. Mohamed Salah is joint second. He's also been injured, 14 goals. Haaland's got 14 goals. Solanke's second technically with 13 goals. Son's on 12. Bowen's on 11. Hwang Hee-chan's on 10. Alexander Isak on 10. Ollie Watkins on 10. Cole Palmer on 9. I may not get that Haaland one right. We need another injury for that to come true. But to be fair, that just shows you how much of a monster he is in regards to his goals. I've been looking at my fantasy football this morning, I'm trying to work out what I'm going to do because I'm going to play my wild card this week, and I think Haaland's going to have to come back into the squad. You just can't not have him. You just can't not have Erling Haaland in this in your team. It's just silly to have anybody else at this stage. It is mad. What a season, MM says Solanke is having. It is a brilliant campaign. Very, very good indeed. All of them are in for my fantasy team at the moment. I'll give you a bit of an insight into what my fantasy team's looking like at the moment for this week, because I've really gone full hammer on some of the prices for some of these players and hoping that I can maybe squeeze some wild card activity, and that's going to give me the best ability to make some mad changes. So at the moment we've got Areola or Pickford in goal, and in defence we've got Trent, Zinchenko, Fabian Schär, who got me a lot of points against Villa when he scored twice, Robertson as well, and Al Dakiel from Burnley. Into midfield we've got Cole Palmer, Pedro Neto, De Bruyne's back, Foden's in there, and I've just added McAtee as well. And then up front is Watkins, Haaland, and Solanke. I did have Saka and Gabriel Jesus, but I've actually taken them out because of Liverpool this weekend. I could be proven completely wrong, but I've got Zinchenko in. I'm going to be benching him this weekend against Liverpool for sure. But yeah, I've got to be careful about the selections, because the reason I have a rule: no Spurs players allowed. Periods. Any Arsenal fan that can use a Spurs player during fantasy football, dearie me. What life are you living? What life are you living? And yes, Zinchenko the defense, because he does contribute quite a fair few points across the season, because he gets like the odd assist here and there with just like laying off things to players, and then I think he got an assist the other day, did he not? So yeah, he got an assist for Gabriel Jesus. He was a throw-in, so he got points for that. So yeah, Zinchenko is not too bad of a pick at the moment. Morgan says, Tom, I am absolutely battering you currently. I need a brilliant upgrade from... Yes, I do. I've had a really poor season, actually. One of my worst fantasy seasons is this year. Hopefully that will change in the second half of the campaign. Aaron says, was there a figure associated with the training ground deal? Not that I'm aware of, Aaron. Not that they've disclosed. Anyway, nothing we've heard of about that yet. So no, I haven't heard anything regarding a fee. Still don't know about Lino Souza or Bradley Ibrahim's fees either. Not whatsoever. Rob says, I heard Cedric was actually his own agent, but Cedric re-signed Cedric and had stated that Cedric had no intention of moving anywhere, as Cedric is raking it in, sitting on his ass. Cedric says, no comment. The obsession of Cedric continues. Anyway, we're going to end the show there. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and listening. It's always an absolute pleasure to speak with you and to join you every single morning. I'll be back later on this evening with a preview show ahead of tomorrow's game against Liverpool, which I'm going to be at. Very excited to be there tomorrow. I think I'm in the overflow area tomorrow, the press section, which is like, you don't get a desk. You sit in with the fans, and I'm going to have my laptop on my knees, still trying to cover the game. So it could be quite interesting, tomorrow's game. But we will wait and see what happens. It's going to be very interesting indeed. I'm really very much looking forward to it. Arsenal have got to avoid defeat at the minimum, but they've got to really win. If we've got hopes of winning a title, we've got to try and win tomorrow's game. We've already beaten Man City this season. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we can secure a victory tomorrow. I'll be back with you, as I say, later on tonight for a preview show. And of course, I'll be with you tomorrow morning once again to do the final retake of the news ahead of the big game against Liverpool. Enjoy your Saturday. Keep our fingers crossed for other teams doing us some favours in the Premier League today. We've got some very, very interesting games indeed. Hopefully Spurs will drop points, and Newcastle, Aston Villa, of course, away at Sheffield United, Brighton, just for that bottom half prediction we could do with them losing again. But thank you so much, as always, for listening. Have a fantastic Saturday. I'll see you soon. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy, stay respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.